Charlotte Lee watched the ocean swallow the last of the night. She stood barefoot on the cool wooden deck of the cottage she had just bought, alone, unseen, the sun rising behind her like a quiet witness. Dawn painted the water in long, trembling strokes. To anyone else, this house would have been a luxury. To Charlotte, it was a vow made tangible. A promise she had worked toward through a decade of cramped studio apartments, skipped dinners, double shifts, and every compromise the reasonable daughter was expected to make. A gull screeched above her, startling her back into the present. She exhaled, feeling the weight of the house key in her pocket. It was heavier than it should be, because it wasn't meant for her. It never had been. This cottage belonged to her parents. They just didn't know it yet. Inside, the place smelled of new paint and ocean air, sharp and hopeful. Sparse furniture, just enough to make the space feel lived in without claiming it. She had stayed up past midnight arranging the living room so the first thing her parents would see was the framed photograph of their younger selves. Her mother with sunlit cheeks, her father grinning with an arm around her waist. The picture looked like it belonged here, as if the house had been waiting for it. Charlotte stepped back, hands on her hips, letting the space breathe. Every detail felt deliberate. The throw blanket her mother once admired in a catalog. The hand-carved bowl similar to the one her father lost during a move 20 years ago. It was a choreography of memory and gratitude. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. A text from her best friend Sophia materialized. "You sure you don't want to wait until the party tonight to show them?" Charlotte smiled. She typed back, "No. I want them to walk into this place while it still feels like a dream." A pause. Then, "It already does." Charlotte locked the screen, letting the house settle around her. She tried to imagine their reaction. Her mother's stunned silence, her father's gentle disbelief. She pictured her own name leaving their lips with that tremble she hadn't heard since childhood. It made her chest swell until it hurt. She thought of Vivian next, her younger sister, all charisma and chaos, who had already texted that she might be late to the anniversary dinner because of the kids' schedules. In the family's constellation, Vivian was always the sun, Charlotte, the quiet star that everyone assumed would stay steady no matter how much they leaned on her. Charlotte loved her, she genuinely did, but this house, this moment, she wanted it untouched by Vivian's big entrances and bigger opinions. For once, she wanted her parents to look at her first. A car door slammed outside, her heart jolted. Then her mother's unmistakable laugh drifted up the walkway. Charlotte hurried to the door, barely managing to swing it open before her parents appeared on the porch. Her father squinting into the brightening morning, her mother pausing mid-step as if the sight of her eldest daughter on the doorstep of a beach house was beyond comprehension. "Surprise," Charlotte whispered, unable to stop the smile spreading across her face. Her mother covered her mouth, breathing in sharply. "Charlotte, what is this?" Charlotte held out the key. "This," she said, voice steady even as her hands trembled, "is yours." Her father blinked. Once, twice. His jaw clenched the way it did when he was fighting emotion he didn't know how to carry. "Come inside," she urged softly. "Let me show you everything." And as they stepped over the threshold, hesitant, overwhelmed, unaware of the storm that waited months ahead, the ocean behind them kept rising, its waves dragging against the shore with a rhythm that felt like both a blessing and an omen. Charlotte didn't hear it then. She was too busy giving away a dream that she didn't yet realize she would one day have to fight for. For the first half hour, Charlotte simply watched her parents move through the cottage in stunned silence. Her mother traced the curve of the kitchen counter with trembling fingers, as if afraid it might flicker out of existence. Her father paused at the living room window, eyes fixed on the strip of shimmering blue beyond the dunes. "You did all this," he murmured, voice thinning with disbelief. "For us?" Charlotte nodded. "For everything you've given me." Her mother's eyes filled. "But, darling, the cost. I've been saving for 10 years, Charlotte said. "Every promotion, every bonus, every weekend job. This was the plan." Her father turned away, jaw tight. "Charlotte," he whispered, "we never wanted you to carry us." "I know," she replied softly, "but I wanted to." The words landed with a warmth that made her mother's shoulders soften, but beneath that warmth, Charlotte sensed something else. A fragile worry, flickering like an old bulb. She ignored it. Today was meant to be clean joy. They spent an hour wandering the rooms as Charlotte explained everything she restored, the floors redone, the insulation replaced, the wiring updated. She knew the house like a heartbeat now. Her father kept shaking his head, and her mother's small sounds of wonder made every sacrifice worth it. It was almost perfect, until her phone buzzed. "Vivian, on my way to the dinner. Can I drop the kids at Mom and Dad's first? They want to show them the anniversary gift early." Charlotte's stomach tightened, a reflex she'd long grown used to around her sister's breezy requests. She replied, "They're with me. I'll bring them later." A rare three-dot ellipsis appeared. Vivian was debating a response, but none came. Charlotte slipped the phone into her pocket, forcing her breath steady. She wanted this morning to be theirs, hers and her parents', without Vivian's inevitable commentary, without Trevor's calculated appraisals, without the chaos they carried like weather systems. She returned to the living room to find her father seated on the sofa, his hands clasped in a way she recognized from years of deferred conversations. "Sit, sweetheart," he said. Her mother hovered nearby, wringing her fingers, a thin thread of unease pulled tight. "What's wrong?" Her father searched for words, eyes drifting to the framed photo on the mantel. The one of him and her mother, young and hopeful, a mirror of what she was trying to give back. "It's beautiful, Charlotte," he said, "more than beautiful. But I worry." "About what? About what it cost you," her mother whispered. "You've given so much, and we don't want you to lose yourself trying to give us more." Charlotte swallowed. This wasn't criticism, it was guilt. She saw that now. They felt undeserving. "You're not taking anything from me," she said gently. "You're giving me peace, knowing you have a place you love. That's my rest." Her father nodded slowly, though a shadow of doubt remained. She was about to speak again when the front door swung open. "Hello?" Vivian's voice swooped in before her body appeared. Charlotte froze. Her mother stiffened. Her father's head jerked toward the sound. And then Vivian stepped inside. Sunglasses perched on her head, kids chattering behind her, and Trevor trailing a step behind, phone in hand, expression unreadable. The energy shifted instantly. Not loud, not dramatic, just shifted. Vivian paused mid-stride, eyes widening as she took in the living room, the ocean beyond the windows, the careful details. "Oh my God," she breathed. "You didn't tell me it was this nice." Her voice echoed with a brightness that grated against the fragile quiet. Charlotte stepped forward, forcing a smile. "This was supposed to be private, just for Mom and Dad." Vivian waved a hand. "Relax, Charlie, we're family." Trevor whistled softly, walking through the space as if appraising a listing. "Great location," he muttered. "School district's excellent. Commute would be easy too." Charlotte's jaw tightened. "It's not for—" "Mom!" Vivian squealed, interrupting. "This is amazing. Are you sure you two can manage a place like this on your own? I mean, it's a lot of upkeep." The words were coated in sugary concern. Charlotte knew better. Her mother's expression faltered. Her father's shoulders stiffened again. A familiar feeling returned, an old ache Charlotte had learned to swallow through childhood dinners, family holidays. Every moment Vivian made herself the center of gravity, a feeling Charlotte hoped adulthood had buried. But now it rose again, uninvited. Vivian turned, her voice bright as a lighthouse beam, too bright. "You know," she said casually, "if you ever need help staying here, or even someone to use it when you're not, we'd be happy to." The room went still. Not angry, not shocked, still. As if everyone felt the tremor beneath the floorboards, small, almost imperceptible, but impossible to unfeel. Charlotte inhaled. The ocean roared outside, pulling at the shore with a force that felt like warning. And for the first time since buying the house, she felt its weight shift, not as a gift, as something that could be taken. The dinner should have been celebratory. It wasn't. By the time the family gathered in the private restaurant room that evening, Charlotte felt as though she'd been holding her breath since Vivian barged into the cottage. Her parents kept thanking her in soft bursts, trying to anchor the mood, but every time Vivian chimed in, "We'll help you manage it, the kids are already obsessed with the beach, Trevor works closer to here anyway." Charlotte felt a thread pulling tighter. Trevor ordered wine like he was hosting. Vivian took the head seat without thinking. Charlotte said nothing. For years, silence had been her fluent language. But tonight, every quiet beat seemed louder than it should be. Near the end of the meal, while her father gave a halting toast about family and gratitude, Charlotte noticed a moment, small, fleeting, but sharp as glass. Vivian slipped her phone from her purse, shielding the screen, and nudged Trevor. He angled himself discreetly to look. A shared glance. A smirk. Something covert. Charlotte's stomach dipped. When the plates were cleared, Vivian leaned forward, elbows on the linen tablecloth, and said in her careful, too bright voice, "So, about the cottage." Her parents exchanged a look. One Charlotte knew well. A look of dread wrapped in politeness. Vivian continued, "I've been thinking. It's a lovely place, but it's a lot for two people to manage. And you both have back issues. And Dad, you always said the coastal humidity wasn't great for your joints." "Vivian," her father warned gently, but she waved him off. "No, listen. You two deserve comfort. So does Charlotte. And we've been talking, right, Trev?" Trevor leaned back, fingers laced behind his head, like a man performing ease. "We could take it off your hands temporarily," he said. "Stay there while you get used to it. Keep it warm. Make sure everything runs smoothly." Charlotte felt something inside her splinter. Her mother stiffened. "That wasn't the intention," Vivian barreled on. "It makes sense. Our lease ends next month. The kids need stability. And think about it. Charles, you barely have time to use it with work. Wouldn't it be better if someone kept it lived in?" Her voice softened artificially. "This is for all of us, all of us." Charlotte's hand tightened around her water glass, condensation cold against her skin. The room seemed to tilt. She knew Vivian could be entitled. She knew Trevor saw opportunity like a hawk scanning fields. But this felt rehearsed, coordinated, expected. She thought of the shared look between them earlier, the smirk. Something was already in motion. "Vivian," Charlotte said, voice low but steady, "you weren't invited there today. You didn't ask, you just came." "Well," Vivian laughed lightly, "you didn't exactly say it was private. It was implied." "Implied?" Vivian scoffed. "God, Charlotte, you're always so dramatic. It's a house. A family house." "It's their house," Charlotte corrected, nodding toward their parents. But her mother's face had gone pale. Her father looked defeated in a way she hadn't seen before. Vivian noticed, and doubled down. "Why are you making this difficult?" She pushed. "We all know Mom and Dad won't be able to spend every weekend down there. She pointed with her wine glass, "you practically built a second career trying to afford it. You're not moving in. So why shouldn't someone else get use out of it?" The fracture inside Charlotte widened. Something old and heavy cracked. Years of being overlooked, of being the dependable one, the giver, the fixer, the daughter who didn't need to be considered. Her father set down his napkin, hands shaky. "Girls, maybe we should slow down," Trevor interrupted. "No need. We've actually been exploring options." Charlotte's head snapped up. "Options?" Vivian's expression froze. Trevor's smirk returned. He tapped his phone. "We spoke to a broker about refinancing, just to see what's possible. There's great equity in that place." The words punched through the room. Her parents stared at him in horror. Charlotte felt the world narrow to a point. "You what?" she whispered. Vivian jumped in, defensive. "It was just We wanted to know if you had no right." Charlotte's voice was cut from steel. Trevor shrugged. "It's family. We were trying to help. By using a house that isn't yours?" She shot back. "It's going to be," Vivian muttered under her breath, "too low for the others, but not too low for Charlotte." Everything inside her stilled. In Vivian's eyes, flashing, defiant, Charlotte finally saw it. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was intent. They already saw the house as theirs. They expected to benefit from it. They assumed they could persuade, overwhelm, or guilt their way into possession. Her father quietly murmured Charlotte's name. But she barely heard him. Something sharp had slipped into place inside her, finally, irrevocably. She stood. The table fell silent. "I need to go," she said. Vivian blinked. "Oh God, don't be dramatic." Charlotte looked directly at her, unblinking, steady. "This conversation," she said, "is over." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply walked out, leaving the table, leaving the weight of the night behind. But the moment she stepped into the cool night air, her phone buzzed again. A message. From an unknown number. We should talk about occupancy and transfer options. You're listed as grantor. There are ways to make this easy. Attached was a forwarded email, a mortgage pre-approval. In Vivian's name, dated 2 weeks before Charlotte bought the house. The night air felt suddenly thin, and Charlotte realized the real betrayal had begun long before today. The turn had already happened. She had just stepped into it. The tension escalates, the emotional stakes sharpen, and Charlotte reaches the edge of a critical choice. The night after the dinner, Charlotte couldn't sleep. She lay in the small guest room of her apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every smirk, every hint she should have caught earlier. The forwarded email stayed burned into her mind. Vivian's name, the pre-approval, the date. 2 weeks before Charlotte closed on the cottage. 2 weeks before she even told anyone. Someone had leaked, or someone had guessed, or someone had planned. By dawn, a headache pounded at her temples. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, legal documents spread out like a battlefield. She pulled up the scanned deed. Her eyes froze on the line she'd almost forgotten existed. Any change of ownership, occupancy, or refinancing requires the written and notarized consent of the grantor. Her hands shook, not with fear but with recognition. She had put that clause in for estate planning, a safeguard, a detail she'd never imagined she'd need. But now it gleamed like a lifeline. She grabbed her phone and dialed Patricia. Her lawyer answered groggily. "Charlotte? It's 6 a.m. I need to enforce the covenant," Charlotte said, her voice calmer than she felt. A pause. "Tell me what happened." So Charlotte told her. Everything. The intrusion, the refinancing paperwork, Trevor's smirk, Vivian's under-breath admission, the pre-approval email. When she finished, the line was silent, then sharply awake. "Jesus," Patricia murmured. "Okay, listen. Legally you're covered. They can't refinance. They can't move in. Not without your written consent. So what do I do?" "You document everything," Patricia said. "Then you let me send a cease and desist, and if they try anything else," her voice hardened, "we escalate." Charlotte's breath hitched. "I don't want to hurt them." "But they're hurting you," Patricia said gently. "And they will keep doing it until you set a boundary they can't cross." Charlotte knew the truth of it. She'd always known it. The pattern was older than adulthood. After hanging up, she drove to the cottage, not to confront, but to see for herself whether Vivian or Trevor had left anything behind. Each mile felt heavier, like the road itself sensed the shift inside her. When she arrived, she noticed the first sign of intrusion before she even reached the porch. The front light, which she'd turned off yesterday, was on. Her pulse quickened. She unlocked the door slowly, and her breath caught. Boxes. In the hallway. 2 small backpacks thrown on the sofa, a bag of groceries on the counter, and in the distance, voices. Children's voices. Charlotte's knees weakened. They had moved in, while she slept, while she doubted herself, while she tried to give them space. "Vivian?" she called, though her voice barely carried. Her sister stepped out of the hallway, startled only for a second before pasting on a too-sweet smile. "Oh, Charlotte, you're early. You're in my house. Our parents' house," Vivian corrected. "And they said it was fine." "No," Charlotte whispered. "They didn't." Vivian shrugged, walking past her toward the kitchen. "They will. They just needed time to accept the help. Anyway, we're not staying full-time, just until things settle." "Vivian?" Charlotte's voice trembled in a way she hated. "I told you this wasn't okay." Vivian's expression shifted, annoyance creeping through the facade. "God, Charlotte, you act like I'm stealing something." "You are," Charlotte said. Vivian's eyes sharpened. There it was. The edge underneath the charm. "You think you get points because you bought them a cottage?" she snapped. "You think that makes you special? You always act like the saint, like you're saving everyone, when really you just want control." Charlotte stared at her, breath burning. "I bought it for them," she whispered. "Exactly," Vivian shot back. "And they want us here. They need us here. You think Mom and Dad can manage this place? You think they won't get lonely? You built them something too big, Charlotte, and now you're punishing them because they'd rather have us nearby." The words sliced deeper than Charlotte expected. Not because they were true, but because they were calculated. Trevor emerged from a back room, phone in hand, tone smooth. Look, we're all family, no need for drama. You can still visit any time. Visit. As though she were a guest in the home she'd sacrificed 10 years of her life for. Charlotte felt her throat close, her chest hollowing. You need to leave, she said. Vivian laughed, a brittle, stunned sound. Are you kidding? No. Charlotte's voice hardened. Not this time. Trevor tilted his head. You going to call the cops on your own sister? No, Charlotte said, stepping forward, eyes locked on Vivian's. I'm calling my lawyer. Something flickered in Vivian's gaze. Fear? Anger? Recognition? Charlotte didn't stay to decipher it. She turned, walked out the door, and closed it behind her with trembling hands. Outside, the ocean crashed harder, white foam striking the shore as though echoing the impact inside her. She stood on the porch, inhaling air that felt thin and sharp, and realized the line had been crossed, not by accident, not by misunderstanding, by intent. And now she had no choice left. She would have to fight. The courthouse lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant and cold air. Charlotte sat on the wooden bench alone, fingers laced so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. The petition to enforce the covenant lay in a folder beside her. A stack of signatures, timestamps, photographs, and statements that spelled out one truth. If she didn't defend the cottage now, she would lose it forever. Patricia arrived with her briefcase, heels clicking with calm authority. You ready? No, Charlotte whispered. Then steadier, yes. They stepped inside the small hearing chamber, its fluorescent lights buzzing like nervous insects. A judge with tired eyes took his seat. Vivian and Trevor were already there, flanked by a lawyer who looked too polished, too eager for conflict. Vivian avoided Charlotte's gaze. Trevor didn't. His smirk was muted but alive. As the hearing began, Patricia presented the covenant. Clear language, ironclad. Charlotte felt some of the tension in her chest loosen. It was proof she wasn't imagining this, that she wasn't unstable or dramatic or unreasonable. Vivian's lawyer countered with a flourish. The cottage was a gift, Your Honor. A gift without conditions stated to the recipients. The claimant is acting in bad faith after offering it freely to her parents. Charlotte flinched. Vivian finally looked at her. Her sister's eyes pleaded silently, Don't do this. But beneath the pleading was expectation. You won't do this. You never do. Patricia's voice sliced through. The deed is legally binding. The grantor's consent is required for occupancy. Not suggested. Required. Then she placed the printed mortgage pre-approval on the table. In addition, the respondents pursued refinancing prior to even receiving the gift. This demonstrates premeditation. Vivian's face drained of color. Trevor's jaw twitched. The judge lifted the document, brow raised. Is this accurate? Trevor spoke first. It was hypothetical. Vivian's voice cracked. We just needed options. You moved in, Patricia said sharply. Without permission. Against written legal conditions. Silence spread like wildfire. The judge exhaled, long and slow. This isn't complicated. The covenant stands. Charlotte's heartbeat skidded. Vivian gripped the table's edge. Please, Your Honor, my kids. This is not a custody hearing, the judge said, not unkindly. It's a property violation hearing. Vivian's breath hitched, shoulders collapsing inward. Something inside Charlotte twisted painfully. This wasn't what she wanted. To see her sister small, panicked, unraveling in front of a room full of strangers. But then Trevor leaned back, smug again, and said, We can negotiate occupancy later. The judge's expression chilled. No, he said. You cannot. Not without written consent. Effective immediately, you are ordered to vacate the property within 72 hours. Vivian inhaled sharply, like she'd been struck. Trevor's face slackened, the smirk finally cracking. And until compliance is verified, the judge continued, you are prohibited from entering the premises. The gavel struck, a hollow echoing sound, a sound that marked an ending, long overdue. Vivian rose shakily. Charlotte, please, you can reverse this. You don't have to. Viv, Charlotte said softly. I begged you to stop. Vivian reached for her hand. Charlotte didn't move. Tears pooled in Vivian's eyes. We're family. Charlotte's voice shook. not with weakness but with unbearable truth. "And you used that," she said. "You used me." Trevor grabbed Vivian's arm. "Let's go." But Vivian didn't leave. She looked at Charlotte one last time, a look filled with fury, regret, longing, and something that looked like understanding but came far too late. "Why did you put that clause in?" she asked, voice cracking. Charlotte swallowed the ache in her throat. "Because I knew someday," she said, "I might need to protect myself from the people I loved." A sound escaped Vivian, half sob, half disbelief. Then Trevor pulled her out the door. When they were gone, the room felt hollow. Patricia touched Charlotte's shoulder gently. "You did the right thing." Charlotte nodded, but she couldn't speak. Outside, the sky had cracked open with a storm. Rain pounded the courthouse steps, washing everything in silver streaks. Charlotte walked into it anyway. She didn't move quickly. She didn't hide from the cold. She let the rain hit her face, let it run into her hair, her collar, her palms. It felt like something inside her, years of swallowed hurt, years of quiet sacrifice, was finally spilling out. Not in screams, not in rage, in release. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from her father. "We're proud of you. Come home when you're ready." The words broke something wide open inside her. In the storm, on the courthouse steps, Charlotte finally let herself cry, not because she won, but because she finally stopped losing. The cottage felt different after the storm. Charlotte arrived 3 days later, after the court-mandated vacancy had been confirmed. The property manager had texted a simple all clear. No details, no photos. Just a space ready to be reclaimed, or mourned. She stood at the walkway for a long moment, before unlocking the door. The ocean behind her whispered in its restless rhythm, neither welcoming nor warning, just present, eternal, indifferent to human struggle. Inside, the air was still. The first thing she noticed was the quiet. The second was the absence. Where boxes had been stacked, the floor was bare. Where children's backpacks had hung, a pale square of sunlight marked the wall. Trevor's cologne, the sharp synthetic scent, was gone. The silence felt like exhale after months of held breath, but the house wasn't untouched. 2 small things remained on the kitchen counter, a tiny plastic hair clip shaped like a butterfly, and a crayon drawing taped carelessly to a cabinet. Charlotte picked up the drawing carefully. It was a child's sketch, messy, bright, a sun in the corner, 2 stick figures holding hands. Auntie Char was written in the crooked handwriting she recognized as her niece's. It was the kind of detail that softened the hardest truths. Vivian's choices were her own, but her children had never tried to take anything. Charlotte slid the drawing into her bag, a small, silent decision she didn't fully understand yet. She spent the afternoon repairing what she could, tightening a loose cabinet hinge, repainting a scuffed corner of the hallway, sweeping sand tracked in from shoes not hers. The work didn't feel like restoring damage, it felt like claiming presence. At sunset, she stepped out onto the porch with a cup of tea. The horizon was a blaze of gold and ember, light stretching across the waves like molten glass. For the first time since buying the cottage, she allowed herself to sit, really sit, and inhabit the space without expectation, grief, or fear. Her phone buzzed beside her. A message from Vivian, a long message. She hesitated, then opened it. "I'm sorry." The words appeared alone before the rest scrolled into view. Vivian admitted to pressure, to fear, to debts she'd been drowning in. She admitted she'd been jealous of Charlotte's independence, her self-control, the quiet success that didn't need to be broadcast. She admitted she'd crossed lines, hurt their parents, hurt herself most of all. At the end, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm trying to be someone my kids won't be ashamed of. I hope someday we can talk, not about the house, about us." Charlotte stared at the message, the tea cooling in her hand. Forgiveness wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't a switch, a gesture, a verdict from a judge. Forgiveness was work, messy, non-linear work. And maybe, for once, she didn't need to decide everything at once. She typed a short reply. "I hear you. We can talk when we're ready. No promises, no absolution, just an open door, not to the house but to possibility." Later that evening, her parents arrived. They moved quietly, almost reverently, as if the cottage were a chapel. Her mother walked through the space with a trembling hand on the walls. Her father touched her shoulder gently. the way he used to when she was small. You protected us, he said. We didn't see what was happening. Charlotte swallowed. I never wanted to hurt anyone. You didn't, he said. You stopped a harm that was already happening. Her mother wrapped an arm around her waist, the embrace warm and tentative. This place, it's still ours? Charlotte exhaled slowly. Yes, she said, it is. But as she looked around, the kitchen she'd repainted, the porch she'd sanded by hand, the soft hum of the ocean through half-open windows, she realized something shifting quietly inside her. The cottage had been a gift, a gesture, a symbol of gratitude. But somewhere along the way, through betrayal and reclamation, through pain and revelation, it had become something else. It had become hers, too. Later, after her parents left for the night, Charlotte returned to the porch. The sky had deepened into indigo, stars scattered like embroidery across velvet. She let the quiet settle. Let the air fill her lungs. Let the sound of the waves speak in the language of things that endure. For the first time, she didn't feel like the reasonable daughter, or the giver, or the fixer, or the one who must always bend. She felt whole, and present, and unshaken. The tide rolled in, brushing against the shore again and again, as if reminding her that cycles end and begin endlessly, that everything lost, taken, given, or reclaimed becomes part of the same rhythm. Charlotte closed her eyes, and the story she'd lived, fractured, painful, reclaimed, finally felt like it had reached its quiet, rightful shore.